So without further ado, let's welcome Stacy Lasacco to our service as our guest speaker today.
Thank you so much, Reverend Melissa. And it's so great to be here. It's so great to be here with all of you. And I'm so grateful for the invitation to speak here at Rockland CSL. So I first wanted to start off by saying how the universe conspires to make things happen for us and the synchronicities that show up for us, and how amazing that really is. And I had a demonstration of that last night and this morning that I wanted to share with you. That once you decide to do something, the universe and God really conspires to rearrange things, to arrange things to support us, right? And so this morning, I happened to be checking Instagram, and Ernest Holmes said that all the time too, didn't he? That nature even conspires to support us and that God is for us, and it really is. And so this morning I was checking Instagram and I saw a post that was just absolutely perfect, that fit, that I wanted to share with you. This is from Rebecca Campbell. And she said, living the question is all about embodying our intuition, living from a state of curiosity, wonder, and humility as we navigate the complexities of being human. And I thought that is like my talk summed up in that one quote. So I was just amazed at the synchronicity of that. And because we're all one, Rebecca chose to post that today, right? So I thank the universe and I thank Rebecca for doing that. And then last night, I was preparing my space to speak today for service today. I happened to go onto my altar to get something, and I found a stone that Reverend Melissa had given to me many months ago, I should say. And it says passion. Now, when she gave this to me, I didn't know what the talk title was going to be today. And when I found that last night, I was just, tickled. I thought, oh my gosh, here's the universe showing me and Reverend Melissa, the support that I have. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I just absolutely love the way that works. And so, as Jan said today, CSL's talk topic is perfectly imperfect passions. And when I looked at those words, I thought, that's an interesting set of words, isn't it? So I looked up the word imperfect, and it comes from the Latin word imperfectus, meaning incomplete. And so I thought, okay, what if I replace that word in the talk title with the word incomplete, then making it perfectly incomplete passions? And then that got me to thinking, maybe our passions are incomplete because we are infinite and we are always evolving. And if we are always evolving, doesn't it make sense that our passions, or what we are passionate about, are also evolving? What we were passionate about like maybe 10 years ago might have evolved into something else. Yet the core qualities of who we are and what we are here to express remain the same. So for instance, many of you might remember that my daughter-in-law used to bake and make beautifully crafted vegan food, and she still does that, but she used to do it for restaurants, cafes, parties, and now she's an extremely talented painter. Two different paths, right? But both of those paths involve expressing her gifts of creativity and bringing beauty into the world. So CSL suggests that this talk title and subject of perfectly imperfect passions is about recognizing the challenges of being human in a culture and a world that often judges mistakes or imperfections negatively. But often mistakes or so-called imperfections lead us to the next greatest expression of ourselves. How many of you have had that in your own lives? Well, recently, someone shared a post on Facebook about a man who was born without legs. He was in high school. His adoptive mom encouraged him to wrestle. And he wasn't really good at it initially. And he lost, I think he said like the first, 230 or so matches that he competed in. But his mom wouldn't let him give up. And so he kept practicing and working out and getting stronger until his so-called imperfections weren't noticed anymore. And he started to win despite his challenges. And years later, he decided to go on the show America's Got Talent to show the world that failing can make you stronger and not to give up. He's very inspirational, to say the least. So we don't have to work to become more spiritual because we all came from spirit. And if we believe that, then it's inherently who we are, right? We are already spirit. That's who we are. So we don't need to learn or work at being spiritual. But what we are learning is to be human and to be spiritual, human and spiritual, and to foster more self-acceptance. And the way that we foster that self-acceptance is really just to affirm who we are, where we came from, what we are made of, and to know our connection to the infinite divine intelligence. To know that we are here to give divine intelligence a way to be known in this reality through us. And when we know that, we then know without a doubt that we are always guided to our perfect self-expression. We are all part of the infinite energy, which is love. And so how could it steer us wrong? We all have the gifts that we came in with that are uniquely ours to give. And the way that we express these gifts can and probably will look different at different times in our life. And if something isn't a fit or is no longer a fit, it's totally okay to choose again and move on to something else. My first job after college, this is an example of what I was just saying. I was a computer programmer. So those of you that know me might be surprised by that. I'm surprised by that. And I kept trying my best, but quite honestly, I was struggling with it. Some of my gifts or my qualities that Reverend Melissa often talks about for us to get in touch with and to affirm during her morning sip are love, compassion, and empathy. And I have expressed these gifts in many ways throughout my life and my career. And so when being a programmer wasn't a good fit for me or my gifts, I transferred to a customer support hotline within the same company. And this was a better fit for me. I used my problem-solving skills as well as deep listening and compassion when helping the customers. And when I decided it was time to move on from that job, I moved into a documentation job where I used a lot of my people skills to create a copacetic environment. We had merged two companies and the people that I had to work with weren't too happy with merging with us. So I had to use a lot of my people skills, my love and my compassion also, and my empathy, because I understood where they were coming from. So a few years later, I learned Reiki, which is an ancient energy healing protocol. I did Reiki sessions and I taught classes, and then I went to school to become an esthetician. And eventually I got inspired to create a really luxurious treatment combining facials with Reiki, making it a totally unique expression of me and my gifts. So why am I giving you my resume, you might ask? Well, I'm telling you all this to tell you that there might be one path in your life, but there could be many paths. And our gifts are used in every single one of them because it's who we are. And so all the while, there is something that is guiding us and moving us forward. And it's hard to describe, it's hard to name. It's like an energy, it's a force, it's a vibration, it's that life force energy. It goes by so many different names. And it speaks to us through our intuition, which sometimes comes as a knowing or sometimes as the still small voice that you can hear in your mind. Sometimes it's quiet and sometimes it gets really loud. I don't know if you've ever had an experience with that, but I have. So a couple of times that's happened to me was after doing facials and Reiki for about 9 years, the little voice started speaking to me and it said, "You're bored, it's time to move on." And I argued with the little voice, even though I knew deep down it was true because that was my own soul speaking to me. But I didn't know what to move on to. And I didn't want to seem ungrateful for my clients who had been coming to me for years. And so what did I do? I argued with the little voice. No, I'm not bored. I'm grateful for my business and all my clients. But what does Oprah say? When you don't listen to the whispers, it gets louder and louder and louder until you get the bomb. So physical things started happening to me, and it got to the point that I had so much shoulder pain that I physically could not do the facials anymore, and I closed my business. Around that time, I started to get more involved with CSL, the Centers for Spiritual Living. I took a lot of classes and I became a practitioner. And I was a practitioner for 7 years. And when the little voice started speaking to me again and said, it's time for you to move on. Again, I argued with the little voice and I kept trying to ignore it until it got louder and louder and louder, and I just couldn't ignore it any longer. Honestly, this totally took me by surprise. And coming to the realization that my journey with CSL was complete was not a decision I made with my head. It really came from a much deeper part of me, from my soul, and that infinite wisdom within. And this is how I know, without a doubt, that we are guided. Because it wasn't my conscious decision, it was my intuition, my guidance, my soul. And I had to trust and listen, not knowing what was coming next. It was hard. And after the shock and the grief of that decision, ideas started to flow to me. Ideas always come when we're ready for it, and when you're given just the right amount of information to move forward. And so I left my safety net, that safety net that has been there for me for like 15 years, that place where I grew beyond leaps and bounds, that place where I had support beyond measure from all of my teachers and my fellow practitioners and all the people, part of CSL. But of course, I didn't let go of the people. I didn't let go of the teaching. I just let go of the container, apparently. And I stepped out of my comfort zone big time. And as Reverend Melissa said in my introduction, I'm creating my own business when I'm doing spiritual enlightenment sessions. And these sessions are a combination of all my gifts and spiritual tools that I have learned along the way. And I love it. So this experience and this decision, which seemed so imperfect to me at the time it was first presented to me, led me to getting in touch with and expressing my passion. And I have a feeling that there's more to come, but that's what Spirit has presented to me for now. And so it's perfect. And I'm also in ministerial training through the Spiritual Awareness Center. And I have a knowing that more will be revealed to me after I finish that training. Growth and expansion is scary sometimes because it's not familiar. But when we do something we are passionate about, it feels good. And when we believe in what we're doing and creating and are excited about it, it changes the course of our lives for the better. And not only does it change the course of our lives for the better, but it affects the whole in a positive way. Because we're all energy, we're all vibration. And so when we are in joy, we are vibrating that energy out. And that energy can be felt. And then that also reminds others to do the same. So it's really all about trust, big time trust, faith, self-love, self-acceptance, knowing that we are truly guided to our next best expression. And we do have free will. So we can block the guidance or choose not to follow it. But in my experience, things don't always work out so well when I don't follow that guidance. And this is also a journey of knowing ourselves, who we are, what our unique gifts are, and accepting our unique quirkiness that makes us us. The journey for me has also been about coming out of the spiritual closet, so to speak. I used to hide parts of me for fear of what others might say or think about me or what I was doing. But now I realize it's okay if others don't understand or don't agree with what I'm doing. And I'm really grateful for this new understanding, because in the past, I would compare myself to others and what others were doing and not feel good enough. And now I realize that the way that I do things is not better or worse than someone else. It's just my way. And this realization is huge for me and for many of us who also may have held the same belief. In the past, feeling not good enough would either cause me to be in fear, which would keep me from moving forward, or sometimes it would spur me on to change the way I presented myself. Seemingly imperfections in us, but of course we're perfectly unique the way we are. And imperfections in circumstances or things said or done to us can be a gift because there are always gifts. So one time, a long time ago, I had a teacher who told me that I was like the Cowardly Lion in the Wizard of Oz. And that I had a lot of power, but that I was afraid to use it. And after having a good cry, I did some deep introspection and thought, is this the way I want to present myself to the world? Is this the way I want to be perceived? And the answer was no. And so after that, I made an extra effort to do things that forced me way out of my comfort zone. I put myself out there more, and it changed the trajectory of my life. And so I'm grateful. I am grateful for that comment. It was a gift that brought me closer to expressing my truth. And then the next step was self-acceptance. So after my first year of practitioner training, I almost dropped out. The words for the affirmative prayer treatments just weren't coming to me. And I thought, maybe I'm not cut out to be a practitioner. Maybe it's just not for me. I felt like I was failing at it. Then my teacher asked me if I saw the treatments. And I realized I did see the treatments in my mind's eye. And that failure opened me up to one of my gifts. I started describing what I was seeing, and the words just started to flow. And so this was another lesson, an example of me accepting myself and my unique gifts. Because before that, I was comparing myself to others, which only stagnated the flow of energy and stopped the creative flow. But once I embraced my unique way of doing affirmative prayer treatments, the creative force flowed with grace and ease and love, which we might remember is one of my qualities. But in truth, we are all love at our core. So Franciscan friar Richard Rohr writes in his book, Falling Upward, that there are two parts of the spiritual journey: finding yourself and then expressing yourself in the world. So how to find yourself? He says, ask, what do I want? Step into the future and imagine your best life. Number two, how will I get there? Follow your soulful goals. And number three, what will I focus on? Do small things every day consistent with your vision that make you feel joyful. And take care of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. So I encourage you to create space to hear your own silent soul's guidance and allow your passion to emerge. Identify your gifts or your qualities, or the qualities that you would like to express more in your life. Because when you identify that and have the intention to express more of it through you, opportunities will arise for you to do just that and to express what you are passionate about. There is no one right way or right path. I used to think that. I used to think that we were destined to be, one thing or another, but that's not the truth. The truth is that there are many opportunities. There are many paths to express who you are and what's important to you and what brings you joy. We are not destined to do or be one particular thing. Let yourself be open to possibilities. Do what brings you joy and go where you are guided, because it's your soul doing the guiding. I was listening to Anita Morjani the other day, and she said, the way we change the world is to shine our light. And the way we shine our light is to be in joy. That's it. We don't have to do some grand thing, which is what I used to think shine your light meant. No, it means just be in joy, even when it doesn't seem to be perfect. Be willing to do what brings you joy. Give yourself permission to do that. Reverend Melissa talks about this all the time. Because when we're in joy, we emit a vibration out from us, and it affects the whole in positive ways, because everything is vibration. And it also reminds others of that joy and love within them. So I'd like to share a part of a speech from Pope Francis that illustrates all of this. And in part, it says, when you make a mistake, start over, because only then will you be in love with life. You will find out that being happy isn't about having a perfect life, but use the tears to irrigate the tolerance. Use your defeats to train your patience. Use your mistakes with serenity of the sculptor. Use the pain to connect to pleasure. Use obstacles to open the windows of intelligence. And never give up. Above all, never abandon the people who love you. Never stop being happy, because life is an amazing show. I love that, because life is an amazing show, isn't it? I mean, when we think about how amazing it is that we're floating around in space on this blue-green planet, and what all that means, just picture that in your mind. Think about space and think about this planet and how we're on that planet. I mean, it's all amazing that we're here on Earth, that we got chosen to be here, or maybe we chose to be here in these bodies on this earthly experience. And so when you think of it that way from the global vision, it kind of puts everything in perspective, doesn't it? It's really amazing. So Don Miguel Ruiz says that we are all in a dream of being human, and our life is actually unfolding inside God's dream, and that a greater intelligence is orchestrating everything, and that includes us. So trust yourself and remember, you're not your emotions or your mind. You are the divine experiencing life. I've heard it said that God or the universe doesn't need anything from us, that it is here to serve us. And while it's true that it is giving to us all the time, I believe that God does need us so that it can express itself through us, as us, and make itself known in this reality. It created us so that it can experience life here on Earth through us. I heard of a book called Giving God a Good Time by Patricia Campbell. And the description says, are you ready to give God a good time? Life is meant to be lived fully, completely, and joyfully. And God, or whatever you call the source of your being, experiences life through us as us. And so it's all perfect then, isn't it? And the very best way that we can honor the gift of we call life, of being here on Earth in these bodies and having this experience, is to accept ourselves, all of ourselves, exactly the way we are, all of our quirkiness, all of our uniqueness, all of our so-called imperfections, knowing that we are divinely created, perfectly imperfect or unique, knowing that we are truly being guided to our next best expression of ourselves. Because God wants that for us, because God wants to express as us, and God is us. And since we are infinite, this time here on Earth is short. It's just a blip in the time continuum. So create a life of love and passion, shine and expand your light, and give God a good time. It'll be good for you as well, because it's a co-creation after all, right? So I'd like to close with a quote from Panache Desai, which is really like an affirmation. My life makes the infinite possible in this reality. My life makes love possible in this reality. My life makes presence possible in this reality. And I am grateful for that. So let's ground this message now with an affirmative prayer. As we go within and let the vibration of the words, of the intentions, of the essence, of the presence, just permeate each and every one of your cells, knowing that whatever it is that your soul, your mind, your heart wanted to receive today has been received, whether you remember it or not. Because there's only one source. There's only one. Call it whatever you like to call it, because it's really unnameable. But it is there. And it is guiding us, and it is creating, and it is always giving to each one of us. And we came from this one source. And so we are all one. And we are all one, expressing the divine in our own way, in our own unique way, because that's what gives God a good time, because God gets to express through each one of us. And so God is thrilled. God is thrilled with its creations. It is thrilled with you, with me, with each one of us. And every experience that God gets to experience through us and co-create with us. And so I know that each one of us has that joy, has that passion, has that love within each one of us. It's the core of who we are. And we have that passion because God is expressing through us. God is moving through us. That life force energy is animating us. And so we have that passion. And so when we are ready and we have the courage, or we just decide, we step into it. We say yes, as Reverend Melissa says, we step into our yes. And that brings so much joy to us. And as we are in joy, it affects everyone positively because we are one. And so what we do for ourselves, we do for all. And so I know from this day forward that each one of us is in touch with that love, is in touch with that passion, is in touch with that joy of who we are inherently. And we express that uniquely, as only we can do, as our quirky us, that the thing that makes us us, our quirkiness, our perfectly imperfect beings. But of course, it's all perfect. And I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to speak this here. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to affirm this here, to know this with each one of you. And so I release it now, knowing that it is so, and so it is. Amen.